What's up, YouTube? Coming at you once again. Want to talk about a couple things on my mind. Been a minute since we connected. So before we get started, if you guys can do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment. Anything you do will help me grow the channel. So anyway, what I want to talk about today is everyone's average. All right. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of people. Me and my sister were talking about this, which is why I jumped on here and wanted to talk about it. Everybody, for the most part, I mean that's what average is. That means the majority of people are average. You know, I've been a few places in my life, and I've seen a few things. And what I've noticed, and you probably noticed this as well, if you're being objective, there's a lot of ordinary people out here, right? I'm not meaning that as a slight, right? I mean, because we'll definitely talk about in the future, upgrading your lifestyle. I've talked about in other videos about, maximizing what you already have and to be a better version of yourself, right? So what I mean is this everybody thinking that they're above average and way above average has pretty much taken over the dating market, right? A lot of people have this idea that they deserve more than what they are, right? Notice I didn't say what they think they deserve, right? Or what they think they're worth, right? What's going on here? It's about what they actually are, right? And I'm a firm believer you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what that means is that majority of people should only be looking for people that match them, right? But that's not the case. What you have is most people out here have an overinflated opinion of themselves, right? There's nothing wrong with you believing that you don't deserve the worst of someone. But you gotta really be objective and say to yourself, am I deserving of the type of guy I want or type of girl I want? And I'm gonna speak to both parties. So a lot of times, when you're out in the world, there be some women that should be approachable, right? Especially if you are, a decent looking fella, you got your stuff together and whatnot. And you see somebody on a scale of 1 to 10, that's on the scale everybody can relate to. 5 is average, but it means you're not ugly. You're not particularly fine, but you can be cute, right? You're an average looking person. You can be cute when you dress up. You can, you got your smell goods on. You can really turn an eye or turn a head, right? But these people have whether that's because of social media, whether it's because I think that with social media, women posting themselves have a lot more access to guys reaching out in their DM, and I think this affects women more than guys with social media because you have an abundance of access where in the past you didn't have that, right? So what I mean by that is, so let's say when I was growing up, I'm in my 40s. When I was growing up, in order for you to talk to a woman, right, you had to be in her circle. You had to know her, know someone that knew her. You had to be around her in order to get to her. So while a very attractive woman may have had a lot of options because everybody she's around, wanted to talk to her, right? Nowadays, you have women who aren't as attractive as the ones previously mentioned, but because now they have more access to men are sliding the DM. And I'm gonna let you ladies in on a little secret. A lot of guys will slide your DM, especially the ones that come in and they're coming at you all sideways. They are coming in your DM because they feel like you are attainable. What do I mean by that? It means they feel like, not that you're easy, but you shouldn't be a hard person to catch. And so women look at that and say, well, I'm getting attention from all these guys, everybody's blowing up my DM, and they get the big head, right? And all these guys really want to do is find someone that's easy to smash. And they feel that some guys have audacity. Now you might actually be a bad chick, and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna shoot my shot. But I think that that's not the case for the majority of women who have their egos inflated. Because what I find is some of the baddest women have the least egos. Some of the women who shouldn't have an ego at all have the biggest, right? And that can apply to guys as well. But I think it's a little bit different for guys because they feel that they are. Guys sometimes have a better sense of who looks better than them, right? So, like, what I mean by that, let's say you're in a friend group, right? And you're out with a couple of guys, and you with your friend, and let's say you're 5'5", 5'6", and your friend is 6'5", 6'6", and he's a good-looking guy. He's in shape. He has these things going for him. You may not say it outwardly, but you know that guy should have more options when you go out than you do, right? And sometimes it becomes abundantly clear because what women do, obviously, is if there's a group of guys, they're going to be looking at the guy who they feel is the best person out of that group, and guys do it as well. But I feel that guys are a little bit more down to earth on what they think they can get if they're not delusional. And now what's happening is there are some delusional guys out there, and I'm not going to say that there aren't, but I would apply that to guys as well. There's guys out there who have nothing going for themselves. They don't even take care of themselves, physically, and they dang sure don't take care of themselves financially, and they believe that they deserve top tier women. That is the case. So this message goes both ways. It cuts both ways because everybody's out here and we're all average, right? What we should be looking for is someone that is attractive enough for us, right? And not basing our level of attraction on things that are really unattainable for ourselves, right? So for a woman, if you're looking for a guy and you're like, well, I need a guy who's, top tier, he has this, that, and the third going on. What you don't realize is that guy has plenty of options, right? So if you compare his options to you, do you really think that he's going to choose you? Because what you're not going to see really is that let me say it this way. What you're not going to realize is that you may be at the bottom of the barrel for him. And that's what a lot of women don't realize when they go after these top tier guys. I mean, the top tier guy may show you sexual attention. That may happen. And I think that's where a lot of women get confused. They think because they're getting sexual attention from a top tier man then they deserve a top tier man. And that's why I say it applies more to women than men, because the men who are average, they may think they deserve or want the hot chick, but they don't get the attention from the hot chick. So they're just mad at the world, right? And a lot of women have gotten that attention, and they conflate that with how, well, that's why I should date, because that's why I've been smashing. And I'm gonna give you some game here. And a lot of women say they want a six-figure guy, and they don't understand what it takes for him. They got to be six figures. He's not going to be able to spend as much time with you. He's going to have other things that occupy his time other than you, right? So what does that mean? So he's going to be career focused, because if he's a high six-figure guy, that means he's putting in a lot of effort, because he's putting in a lot of effort to be who he is, and he's going to have to continue to put in that effort in order to achieve what he wants out of life, right? So that means there's not a lot of time for you. So you thinking you're going to get this top tier man who makes all this money that can take care of you, and he's going to still be able to spend time with you and take all these vacations? No, I mean, those guys don't take a lot of vacation. They might take nice vacation, but they don't have the time to take a lot of vacations. They don't have time to spend with you every night. I mean, because he's putting in work, right? So unless he is getting his funds from ill-gotten gains, he's a scammer or a other engaging in other illegal activity. He's not going to have the time, right? So that's one thing. The guy that you're thinking is going to be able to take care of you from tip to top, he's not going to have the time to do that. And two, let's say not only is he a high income earner, let's say he's a good looking high income earner, right? So that means other women have noticed him, right? And the women that have noticed him, they may look better than you and probably do look better than you. And they probably have more things to bring to him to improve his life, and they're probably less of a headache than you are. Because if you're coming to a top tier guy and he's making all this money, but he has options to other women, and you're like, well, I need a guy who's going to do this, this, and this for me, and meanwhile he has other women that look better than you that are saying, I'm willing to do this, this, and this for you, you're not going to get chosen. I think a lot of times women use the exception to prove the rule, and I think that's the biggest flaw that women have when it comes to dating. They say, well, it happened for her, so it can happen for me. When that person that it happened for is 1 in 100,000. And even for example, people they look at Sierra and Russell, right? And they're like, oh, I want Sierra's prayer. I'm like, you gotta understand, that was Sierra, right? It wasn't a regular person. Or they say, well, Jeff Bezos, the richest man, one of the richest men in the world. I'm not sure if he's the richest right now. It's always back and forth between who's the richest. Chose a woman who was XYZ and had, I think she's a divorced single mother or just a single mother, but he married her or whatever. I mean, you don't know what type of pedigree she comes from. You don't know what all she brought to the table to win that man over. You don't know how much she's humbling herself to say, hey, Jeff, I am willing to do anything to be with you. I mean, because she had to sign a prenup. That means she don't get nothing. She gets to be with Jeff because, and experiences the richness that he has through him. I mean, because Jeff had already been married before and his previous wife took half his money. So he's not doing that again, which means that, hey, for whatever reason it don't work out, she's back to square one. So in order for her to experience the lifestyle of being rich, she has to do and be comfortable with whatever Jeff says. And that's the other side that a lot of women don't realize. So they're like, okay, I'm gonna get this really wealthy man. He's gonna be good looking. He's gonna have all these things for him. Let's say you find this man, and you don't think you're the only one. Let's say he chooses you. You're not the only one. You're not gonna be the only one. So if you're comfortable with that, then say that. But if you're thinking I'm going to lock this man down, I'm going to be the exception to the rule, so does every other woman out there think they're going to be the exception to the rule. Instead of you guys saying, hey, I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to find a man who's working on himself, that's trying to improve himself. And we're going to link together and we're going to, take this world by storm and be happy. You're like, no, I need the best of the best with my average behind. And I think you're delusional, and I think you're always going to set yourself up to be disappointed. You're always going to set yourself up to be taken advantage of, because I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. When I would meet women like that who were delusional, thinking that they may have been on the level of me dating them, I took advantage of that. I was honest. I was 100% honest. I never led anybody on, but I did know that they wanted me more than I wanted them. So with that knowledge, I was able to kind of do what I wanted to do, because they were willing to bend over backwards because they felt like I was the type of man that they deserved. And the only reason they thought that, because I didn't have kids, I had a decent job, I was making decent money. I was able to, dress myself well. I stood out amongst, in a sea of ordinary men, I stood out. So they're like, okay, well, yeah, I made some plenty of mistakes, but I deserve that type of man. No, you don't. Those mistakes are why you don't deserve. So work it out with your baby daddy, or date a man who may not have as much going on as I do, and love that man. Because in my personal opinion, I'm looking for the cream of the crop for me, right? And unfortunately, you're not the cream of the crop. You may look good, but you bring so much baggage with you that I'm just like, nah, brother, I'm good. I pass. You know. And I've had some people go, above and beyond it. To be honest, it was tempting, and that's the thing. Sometimes, a woman will date a guy, and she'll wow him every now and then, because she still has things going on, but she's able to wow him because she's putting in the effort. One, we know that's not consistency. We know you're trying to win us, so we know even if you might have our nose wide open for a moment, that's not going to be your everyday persona, right? You're doing the most because I'm new, and you're trying to lock me down. The everyday persona, like I heard it said one guy one time. I'm not knocking single mothers, but I would find it hard to date a single mother if I didn't have children, right? I don't have kids. I don't have kids, so. Um, but the reason I say that is because let's say you meet a single mother and she may have one kid, sometimes two, and she has so much availability when you first start dating. That's because she's pulling every trick of the book to get somebody to date, to take care or watch their children because there's a new man. Which means once you become comfortable, now the children are added back to the mix, and she has to be a mother again, right? And now the time that she was able to show you in the beginning, she's not able to show you anymore because she is busy. She's doing what she's supposed to be doing as a mother. She's going back to her normal routine, and I think most women think that, okay, well, by the time I have to start being regular again, I should have had his interest in his nose enough. I should have had my hook in his nose enough that this shouldn't be an issue. When in reality, you should date a guy who has children, so he understands the routine. He understands that, hey, my time is going to be taken up because I have a little Jimmy today. I have a little Ashley today. Ashley got to stay up to school. Like, I have to be a parent today. I'm a parent. I don't have the time necessary. You should date someone who is equally yoked. I think that there's a reason that the Bible mentions that. Be with people who are equally yoked means they understand what you're going through. Instead of trying to date someone that doesn't understand it, that's not on your level. And that's go both ways. A lot of times people use that phrase, not on my level. They're looking at someone that's beneath them. But sometimes somebody's not on your level because they're above you, right? But just my thoughts, guys. Tell me what you think. Like I said, if you guys do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe button. It really helped me grow the channel. I really appreciate it. Comment if you agree. Comment if you don't agree. We accept all criticism here on this channel. Thank you.